I was a journalist. I was a nerd. I didn't work out. I didn't jog. I didn't eat right. I drank with my journalist friends in dive bars. It's better to prepare yourself to live longer when you're younger. What we saw is no middle lane, no credible independent media company that through events and newsletters and news was delivering credible independent news to sort out all the things that are going on out there. So it's such a positive opportunity for people to get well, take care of themselves, live longer, and probably most importantly, be healthier.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Rise Above the Ranks, brought to you by State Media. I'm James, your host for today, and I am really excited to introduce a true pioneer in both media and entrepreneurship. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Brad Inman. Many of our audience may know Brad as the founder of Inman Group. He absolutely revolutionized real estate news, building a trusted platform that has truly shaped the entire real estate industry. Now he's taking that same passion for transparency, community, and high quality events into a new space that we're all talking about, which is health, wellness, and longevity. And with Livelong Media and the upcoming Livelong experience, Brad is bringing together top experts to cut through the noise and share real, actionable insights on how on earth we get to live longer and healthier. So first off, Brad, welcome to the show, and thank you very much for joining us. We are delighted to have you on with us today.
Greetings, James. Thank you so much for having me. I'm humbled that I get to be here. You're famous in the real estate world, so I really am grateful that you're having me on your show, which is very popular, I understand.
So I definitely wouldn't call myself famous. I did do a reality show for way too many years.
Well,
but
you're famous.
We do have. I'm trying. But no, we do have an unbelievable audience. And so I think this is a really interesting topic to be speaking of, and obviously a really interesting space for someone like yourself to be moving in. You built Inman News, which certainly to me and anyone in our industry has become the most trusted source for any real estate professional. Now you're bringing the same approach to Livelong Media. So what inspired the shift, I guess?
Well, years ago, I sold Inman News. I still own a stake, and I still show up on stage because I love to see that community and all those shiny faces. They're not shining as much as they used to. The market's been pretty dreadful, as you know, James. But I had some time in my hands, and I'm not one to sit on my hands. And I started thinking, wow, I have a perfect life. I have a beautiful wife I'm madly in love with, this crazy French Moroccan woman. And I have two great kids, humble and successful. And I have 5 grandchildren. And I started thinking, this is like my 20s when I had no responsibility. I describe it, in the 20s, you're preparing for the whole catastrophe, as Zorba the Greek called it, which is the mother-in-law, the wife, the mortgage, the house, the kids. And then you give up all your freedom for all that responsibility. Then in your 70s, you bury your parents with dignity. You raise your kids to be self-reliant. And it's just like your 20s. And except instead of having a $10,000 American Express credit card bill, you have some money in the bank. So I had it all. But then I started thinking, what is the one thing I need to worry about? What's the whole catastrophe when you're in your 70s? Well, it's the Grim Reaper knocking on your door. And so I decided to really look into how I could keep this thing going longer, this wonderful life. And, life's not perfect. Not everything I have in life is perfect, but I'm very lucky and very fortunate. So I started looking into longevity. I'd heard things about it. It was normally, James, not the kind of stuff I would read. But I started reading about it, and I noticed there was a gap in all this longevity hysteria. You had the medical establishment on one side, kind of elitist, kind of collectively with bad bedside manners, having their own little conferences and their own little media, B2B. On the other end, you had all these biohackers, and amidst that crowd, there's some charlatans and weirdos, a lot like real estate in a way. And what we saw is no middle lane, no credible independent media company that through events and newsletters and news was delivering credible independent news to sort out all the things that are going on out there. So built a
Mhm.
media company, as I've done many times, and around a subject that I personally was really, I was motivated by. So it's turned out to be quite an adventure. And the need is even more dramatic because you have, kind of like in real estate, you have celebrity longevity people, like celebrity chefs, celebrity
Mm.
realtors. You have celebrity PhDs from Harvard, and then you have a lot of conflicts of interest, people that
Mm.
don't disclose that they're selling other products, and they don't disclose the relationships they have. And then you have this persistent problem of what I call the sick care industry, which is the traditional medical field over here that are kind of hard to get access to and don't give you a lot of great advice. And then you got all this innovation, and like Inman, we started reporting on that innovation. It's such a positive opportunity for people to get well, take care of themselves, live longer, and probably most importantly, be healthier.
I love it. I really love it. And honestly, we are in a time where we should be taking special care of ourselves, especially when there's just so much madness going on in the world, quite frankly. And I am seeing people move into this space. And as you mentioned, celebrities are moving into the space. But I think it's the raw truth that if you're really worrying about actual health and not celebrity, you can make huge moves in the space. And you guys are coming to Palm Beach at the end of March.
That's correct.
Can you tell us about the event and how you're bringing together some
Sure.
of the biggest names in health and wellness and longevity? Because I've heard it's going to be a pretty extraordinary event.
Yeah, last year, year ago, just about now, James, we had an event in West Palm, hugely successful, sold out very quickly.
Mm.
Had some big names. People left feeling really good about themselves. It was a great crowd. We thought maybe 80-year-olds in wheelchairs. We didn't know what to expect, but in fact, the average age was more like 55, 60. People who had seen maybe health problems with their parents, they were already kind of tuned into health. They showed up. It was tended to be a healthy looking crowd, a positive crowd, a little easier to handle than some of the real estate crowds I've been before. I love that community, but it's just a different world. And they left loving the event we put together. And I have a great team of people. My partner in this is someone I brought over from Inman, Katie Godot, who is just amazing at producing high quality production events. I think that surprised people to go to some event that was so well organized and orchestrated. And I was there like I'm in real estate. I was there for the advocate of the people that were, as I say, the woman that came from Omaha and sitting in a plastic chair all day. And they like that tone. They like the everyday man kind of approach we took. But high quality speakers, great engagement, journalists asking tough questions, helping people sort it out. But after that success, we said, we got to do this again. So we're doing it again. And we're doing it with we're testing something, a smaller, more intimate crowd. What we found last time is there was this amazing learning experience from peers, and they call it peer-to-peer learning is the fancy name. But that was really going on, and people were making connections, and those connections, like at Inman, can be lifelong relationships, not only business but personal and other. And so we decided to experiment a little higher price point, but the same objective, the same mission, educating people on this. And if we're successful here, we're going to take it around the country. And so it's the 28th, 29th, starts at 4 o'clock on Friday the 29th, 28th, and goes all day Saturday. We have it on the weekends because it's for the public. And we just have a great program plan, doing all kinds of creative, fun things mixed with the more serious. And we have, we take it really seriously. Like we have really qualified people on stage. No scammers or schemers. And we got, we do have a couple celebrities. We have Mark Hyman, who's quite famous. And we have Michael Greger, who on the diet front is quite famous, and several others like that. And then just really established people talking about, what we call the pillars of health, which is, movement. It's, what I call the freebies. Like, if you move a lot, you're going to get healthier. If you socialize a lot, you're going to get healthier.
Mhm.
If you, eat right, all of the things and then on top of that, all the science and the innovation.
I love it. You made a really interesting point about your first event. You expected 80-year-olds and 90-year-olds, and you got an average age of 55. I think when I think of health, I immediately think that if I'm unhealthy, I need to go and get help. But actually, when you're at your healthiest is when you really need help to maintain your health and
Yep.
wellness. So don't wait until you're sick to get healthy.
No.
Maintain the health and wellness that you're given. And
James, I'm a living example of that. I was a journalist. I was a nerd. I didn't work out. I didn't jog. I didn't eat right. I drank with my journalist friends in dive bars, and I knew all about this stuff. I wasn't stupid, but I didn't take care of myself. And so I had to pay the price. And it's hard to self-correct later in life. It's better to prepare yourself to live longer when you're younger. So I think that's why younger people are coming. I mean, I've extended my biological life, I'm told, by the actions I've taken the last couple of years, but it's a lot better to start when you're younger.
100%. And I read a lot, and there's no real conflicting health advice, or there's no shortage of advice that's out there, right? But you
Absolutely.
can also overload yourself with
Yep.
information. I guess my question to you is, how do you see um, live long media becoming a trusted source in this huge industry, similar to what I guess you built with Inman News?
Yeah, it's really everything I've done. I was in the ebook business, and there we made sure that our collection of books were credible. I was part of the group that founded Eater, and it was
Mm,
credible dining recommendations for people where to go eat. And I was in the video production company. We hired qualified video companies. Real estate, it was always independent. I had so many opportunities, James, to sell the stage, as we say, where speakers say,
yeah.
"We'll pay you." No, we said no. Our reporters can't buy stock in Zillow. We have integrity. It's kind of old school journalism, and we applied that. And we found the best way to build an audience is through that credibility, because there's a lot of confusing media now and people don't know where to go. And, as I said, conflicts aren't disclosed. And so we are in this for the long haul. We're not like a quick, make it, sell it, flip it. It takes a while to build audience. But, in less than a year, we have 100,000 subscribers to our newsletter with the goal of
Wow.
getting to a million very shortly. And we're on our way. And it tells
Wow.
you, and a very high open rate and a high click through rate. And that's a function of people wanting this because they are confused. They don't know who to believe. And that's where, we fill a gap. And the other thing is, this is an industry like real estate, James, that's being disrupted. And we want to be part of that disruption because clearly we need to democratize this information, and we also need to help change the existing kind of burdensome infrastructure of the insurance industry. And that's not a negative, that's a positive. We need to clean
Yeah.
up the medical establishment.
Yeah, yeah. I love all of this, and I'm actually glad you spoke on disrupting. I feel like in many ways you disrupted the real estate industry in the best way possible by just providing everything that you did in a different way, in a unique way, and building an audience is something you're clearly very good at. But before I get to the disrupting part, which is key, like I'm sitting here thinking about real estate, right, which is so organic to what you're doing. It's a high stress industry, right?
Yeah,
And
very much
I
so.
feel as though so many real estate agents, I feel like not me, thankfully, and I actually do care, but a lot of them put their health on the back burner.
Absolutely.
Um, so I would love to know, for people in the real estate industry, what would be some key takeaways from Live Long Media that real estate professionals should be paying attention to in
Well,
in your opinion?
sure, it's a great question, and I love that community, and I want them to be healthy, and I want them to be wealthy. I love success. So, and part of my journey was working too hard. And I've never really believed in this balance of life thing. There's a period in your life where you have to go hard and charge hard, and you
Yep.
gotta, you just gotta focus on that. And then there's other times where you're not. But whatever you're doing and at whatever pace you're doing, and we're all different, it is so important that we try to take care of ourselves. But, it would be back to those basics, like take care of what you're eating, be responsible and thoughtful, and try to do more, sounds horrible, but asparagus, not M&Ms. I'd like to have a pack of M&Ms right now. But try to just be more responsible about the eating part. Make sure you're
Yeah.
always in motion and movement. I mean, one thing realtors don't really have a problem with, they're master networkers. They're always socializing. So, but there are some we all know that isolate, and isolation
Yep.
is a killer. We had a speaker last year who made a pretty compelling scientific argument that lack of socialization, isolation leads to depression,
Mm.
and that can be more serious to your health than smoking cigarettes. And I was like, oh, come on.
Wow.
But that just tells you how important it is. So, but I think again, those that are isolating, they need to not isolate. And then
Yep.
I think testing, I really believe in testing. And, we kind of, with a screwed up healthcare system and what we call sick care, people need to kind of take responsibility for their own health. And there's all these new ways. Make sure that those organs, are doing what they should be doing, and you don't have problems before you're told you have a major problem. You know, our biological health is a function of our genes, and we're all given
Yep.
that. Like, you're going to live to X, Y, Z. But we can extend that by lifestyle and by prevention and by diagnostics. And it's pretty simple. You don't want to obsess. You want to enjoy life. You don't want to overtest. You don't want to get carried away. But if you just take care of a few things, you'll be better off. And the stress level, that's the hard part. I remember raising money for companies, nearly running out of money to make payroll. I even once took a trip to Vegas to make payroll. And,
Hmm.
those kind of things. And we have realtors now, as you know, James, with no transactions.
Hmm.
And it reminds me of my mom back in the day on the farm where they had 7 years of crop failures. That means they had no income. Every time I look out in a real estate audience now, I think of how many of those people have had no real estate deals at all. And whether
Yeah.
it's luxury or people selling production. So I think that's where community is important. I talk to realtors every single day. I love them. And,
Hmm.
it's a tough market, and tough for some people. I'm shocked that it's tough for. So that's where community comes in, staying connected, share your feelings. I know it sounds like BS, but, one way to get out from under the stress is being willing to share with people you trust how you're feeling, how you're doing. But I could go on and on. I love this community.
Yeah.
We have a ton of them coming to our events. One, they like the Inman experience which we give them, but they also are smart enough to know that they need to take care of themselves.
I love that. And I really appreciate all of that, Brad, because I am huge on mindset. And I couldn't agree with you more. Isolation is the biggest killer. Mental health is a real thing. And I'm a personal believer in success breeds success. And what I mean by that is you have to hang around successful people from within that are going to
Totally.
lift you up and make you a better person. And ultimately, if you do stay home and you do isolate, I can absolutely believe that that's worse than smoking a cigarette, because depression is hands down the worst thing that anybody could have. And the worst part about it is other people don't necessarily understand it. So,
Well, here's an interesting story. We've all had downturns in our life, and I've had a few
for
in mine,
sure.
where it's hard to put one step in front of the other. That oh my God, it's really hard. And I never forget one time that I had that. I was in the Upper East Side of New York. I was not wanting to get out of bed, and then when I got out of bed, I would grab a pack of cigarettes and I'd sit by the window like out of some movie, and take a sip of a Jack Daniels, what I had no business doing. And I had trouble getting out of it. And at one of those low moments, someone that came to my rescue was Sherry Chris, the former CEO of Better Homes and Gardens, and she literally flew out to see me on moments' notice because she could feel the pain I was in, and I was willing to share a little bit. And here's another one. I had the same thing. I was out in California. I was stuck up in a beautiful location in the Redwoods in a house I have there. And a guy named Ken Jenny, who was in real estate for many, many years, who unfortunately we lost at a young age a few years ago. But Ken flies from LA to San Francisco, drives up to the woods of Sonoma, forces me to go out into the golf course and play golf with him. And, that community in real estate is great. And they're there to help you. You just have to be willing to tell them you need them. And once you tell them, there's a lot of people that'll respond. So for those going through a tough market or feeling depressed, they want to wake up and have a Jack Daniels and a cigarette. There's a lot of people that care about you. You just may not be willing to reach out. It's kind of like when you're down. I don't know if you feel this way, James. Music is good for longevity. Dancing's good for longevity. But when I'm down and out, I don't feel like listening to music. I listen to
That's
music
right.
when I'm happy. But you need to turn on the
Absolutely.
music. You need to get up and dance by yourself. Anything to
Yeah.
get moving and see the bright side of life and know that all these things that you're in the midst of will pass. Time is the best healer.
Amen to all of that, Brad. And I always tell friends that are going through it, and of course, I've had dark times myself, but at some point in your life, you will look back at those dark times and realize that those dark times are what got you to exactly where you are today. They made you
Exactly.
stronger, they made you better, you learned from those mistakes. And so I truly I resonate with everything you've said, and everything I've been through in my own life has got me to exactly where I am today. And I don't mean that in a cliche way. I mean that because it's real.
Oh, it's
And so
sincere, James. I
really,
can tell. It's very sincere.
yeah,
And I think you and I both care about the people around us. And
big
like you
time.
say, and it always comes to an end. The worst things come to an end.
Yeah, amen. So moving on, because I know your time's valuable, and I want to get you back to building live long media here. But disruption, which is such a big part of the media world, the technology world, I guess one thing I'd love to know is, do you see that AI is starting to play a role in how we consume health and wellness information, similar to the impact that it's now having on the real estate world?
Absolutely. It's accelerating research.
Yeah.
It's which is fantastic because a lot of these things are tied up in long cycles. And so
Yeah.
it's accelerating research. It is definitely accelerating the innovation around procedures.
Mhm.
You look at robotics now being applied to surgeries that used to be highly risky or
Mhm.
less risky. You see it being applied in all sorts of ways. I'll just use an example. I'm doing something right now. I'm hoping to have it all done in time for the end of March, but I'm taking all of my tests, all of my
Mm.
health records from Kaiser back in the day in
Wow.
California, all of my NYU, the stents in my heart, all of my my functional health by all of the blood tests, all everything, like all my family history. It's all around me. It's here, there, everywhere. And they have these portals, but they're very inefficient. But I'm using AI to integrate all of this information, which is kind of
Wow.
Brad's profile. As I say, the mystery, we talk about the mystery of outer space, the mystery of what's under the sea.
Mhm.
My biggest mystery is what's inside my body. And a lot of these mysteries, by the way, have not, the brain is still a mystery to the top people in the profession. But anyway, I'm taking all of these and I'm using the new scientific perplexity one, the that just came out.
Yeah.
And I'm saying take all this medical information and come up with who is Brad, what's going on in his body, integrating it all into one thing. And there are services doing some of this where they take your
Wow.
genetics and integrate it, but I'm taking it on myself. And pretty easy to do. You just got to figure out how to download some of these disparate files.
Yeah.
And there's also one other problem. They object to taking private health information, but I did a
Hmm.
workaround and a hack where I can copy and paste without importing what looks like a medical file. The way I look at it, I'm just going to trust the
Um,
cloud. I probably shouldn't, but who cares if I really don't care if someone finds my medical records. I'm not as worried as the federal government is. And by the way, I don't want
right.
to be
Thankfully.
irresponsible. I'm not
Yeah.
telling other people to do it. I'm
Yeah.
telling, I know my doctor knows I'm doing it. I know some other people I'm doing it. But this is the what I call the not the last mile, but a barrier to us understanding this. This is, James, very holistic. It is your behavior, it's your genes, it's your tests. And how about if we could integrate this and make it very affordable without joining one of these really expensive services that the billionaires use? So I'm just testing it and I'm learning. I'm learning the legality of uploading files. I want to make sure I'm personally not doing it illegally, but it's my information. I want to make sure I'm not deceiving the AI tools that I'm using because I depend on them. I also want to make sure that whatever conclusions I reached, I don't react to and have others look at it. But just to try to get a good profile of where I stand. And I use this as an example. I don't recommend necessarily for others. I only say the more you can take responsibility for your health, the more information you have what's inside your body that you're unaware of, the better advice you get. Like I depend on the best physicians in the world at NYU, but I also go to a Chinese healer who's been doing this for 50 years because I want all sides. I call it, I'm the guinea pig like Howard Hughes was when he would only test his planes. He wouldn't let a young pilot do it because he figured I invented it. I'm not going to put them at risk. So I'm kind of the guinea pig for my community and trying to figure out what's real here and asking questions, trying to understand it, and criticizing those that I think aren't doing their job. A lot of these things you
Yeah.
do DIY, right? But then they leave you hanging. Like, okay, I got a
Yeah.
full body scan. It's pointing out these things. What do I do with this? And that's where we need to marry, like we did in real estate. We married the tried and tested practices of the past, those people in the industry for many years, with the innovation in the prop tech companies. And that
Mm.
created, I think, a marriage where we could make progress together. Similarly, here we have to do the same. Let's take all of this
Yeah.
innovation and marry it with, a doctor who's been practicing for 30 years who knows a lot of stuff and is essential to our health.
Hmm. I really appreciate all of that. And I just did maybe 3 months ago a pre-nuvo scan. I don't know if you're
Yeah, yeah.
familiar with pre-nuvo. And it's like, okay, so I got all of the information from here down, but now what on earth do I do with it? Because I'm not going to now start reaching out to 17 different doctors and, nothing is a major red flag. But of course, in all of our systems, we've got 100 things that are or need adjusting. But I feel exactly what you just said in the sense that, like, what do I do with it now? It would be great to have a resource that can take this full body scan, which, by the way, was fantastic. But now what on earth do I do with it?
You nailed it, James. See, that's the gap in the market. There's all these independent things going on. There's also these very specific things that we're all looking for. And the bigger picture is what we need to understand better. Like in my full body scan, or I think my function health or by Meyer markers, they found lead. I have a lot of lead. Well, I'm not surprised. I'm 72. I lived in a farm town. Little boys, God knows what we were doing with lead paint. But you look at that and you go, oh, I'm going to have a panic attack. But guess what? There isn't much you can do about it, and you shouldn't worry
Right.
about it. And you need someone to tell you that. My wife did Prenovo, and she found a 2.5 millimeter aneurysm in her brain. The whole family flipped out, and only to realize it was in a part of her brain that was very well protected. We've tested many times. It's not growing. It's even decreased. So all the panic, and that's where my NYU doctor, Dr. Rockland, would say, "Hey, Brad, you're over testing. You got to be careful. The stress that caused her Yaz may have been worse than the aneurysm." So this is the confusion and what we need to do. We do have, by the way, we have the chief medical officer from Prenuvo coming, and we're going to grill them on, what they're doing. We're really supportive of testing, and we're full body, whether it's them or whoever. But those are the kind of people we have there, so we can understand how they're thinking about it.
That's really interesting. Okay, so let's shift gears. I want to just touch on real estate for a minute because I'd be
Absolutely.
crazy not to. You know, looking back at your time in this insane business called real estate, what's one major shift, Brad, that you think the industry still isn't fully prepared for? I feel like we've been through a lot over the last 24 months. I mean, I'm talking about the NAR rulings. I'm talking about obviously more specific to California. We got the wildlife ordinance, we got ULA.
Yep.
But like, is there anything on Brad's mind that the industry has coming that we are not looking at or seeing or prepared for?
Well, I think we've had enough dreadful news, so I don't
Yeah,
want to bake something here, but I
true
will
that.
say
Yeah.
I've been through a lot of recessions, a lot of near depressions in real estate. I've been through down markets, interest rates that were, 18%, if you can imagine. Um,
Oof.
but I don't ever remember a perfect storm like this. Between the leadership of the industry not doing their job, being duct taped by their lawyers, not leading the troops through this, from the lawsuits to the payouts to the crumbling of NAR as a beacon for people, to a market that was frozen, rates no one expected to skyrocket, the shortage of inventory. I mean, this has been after a booming couple years during COVID, it's been a dreadful 2 years. But I
Mhm.
really believe that the phoenix rises. Like, I used to cover as a journalist, oddly, natural disasters, and I was a financial writer. So I was sent in after, the death toll and CNN left, and I covered, what the insurance companies were doing, which was horrible. And I covered, the rebuilding where the government slowed down the pace. But what I found most rewarding about that reporting was it's in human nature to rebuild.
Mhm.
And what we're going to look back on, like after 9/11, when people come back and they rebuild and they find their homes, people have been saying, oh, they're not going to rebuild in the Palisades. Yes, they are.
Yeah.
It's human nature. We want to go home. We want to go back to the nest. We want to, see our neighbors and our friends. It'll take a couple years, but you know what happens afterwards? The neighborhoods are better built. They are safer. The landscaping's better. It's the right kind of landscaping. The infrastructure is better. The utilities are undergrounded. And, you look at the Berkeley Oakland fire, 2,800 homes, it's better than it's ever been. We are going to be more transparent. And with that transparency comes more clarity for the consumer and lower transaction costs and more transactions. So I'm very hopeful, but this has been a show. I mean, it has been really
So
difficult.
I just want to touch on that and respond, but I couldn't agree with everything you've said more. I think the people running our industry are ridiculous at the helm.
Horrible.
Horrible, horrible, horrible. But I do think that, and I'll speak more granular to real estate agents, I think that we are resilient, we are strong, and I think that real estate agents that are going to be successful in this industry have two choices, and that is the glass is either half full or half empty.
100.
And if you're a real estate agent that sees that glass being half empty,
Yeah.
you're in the wrong industry and you need to go and get a 9 to 5 that pays you a salary, because Brad mentioned earlier, there's agents out there that haven't seen a paycheck in 6, 12, 18 months, which that's okay. It hurts mine too. So if you're going to be in the real estate industry, that is an incredible industry, don't believe the shit you see on TV, because deals don't get closed in a minute and a half and you don't make hundreds of thousands easily. But if you're going to be in this industry, be prepared to work hard, be creative, think outside of the box, be hungry, be a go-getter, and don't let the challenges that are presenting themselves to us let you get knocked down. You get back up and you work harder and you outsmart the competition and you ride the wave so that when it comes back, you're best positioned to be a wild, wild success.
You nailed it, James. Be a winner, not a whiner. And I guarantee you that a lot of people are going to leave the industry, so you have less competition, and the best will rise. And I couldn't agree with you more. And I think things will be fine for that type of agent. And there are plenty out there. Realtors are naturally optimistic people. They have to be. But this whole leadership thing, what really makes me mad is they all get paid and get paid big salaries, big bonuses, and the realtor out there. But I think it's shifting from the realtors at the bottom are now at the top. Their fate is in their hands. They'll never again take for granted that the leaders are looking out for them, because they weren't. And so you are on your own with your team and with your colleagues, and hopefully with a good broker. And it's those are the winners. But the industry as a whole is going to shift, and most importantly, more transparent. Which once it's more transparent, there's more confidence in the consumer, and there's more transactions.
I love it. I'm really, really glad we touched on that. Thank you. I guess finally, and then I'm going to let you go here, give us one simple change that people can make today to live a longer, healthier life?
Slow down your alcohol intake. I'm not saying you shouldn't drink, and think about what you eat today. And that'll give you, it's all about extending your biological life. What you were given by your parents, your grandparents, is fixed. You can't change that. That's it. But you can change potentially increasing that biological age. And nutrition would be one of the most important. What you put in your mouth is one of the important things. And call a friend and go see them and go take them to lunch, but eat healthy.
I love all of that. As someone that's sober, if you can't do it in moderation, you probably shouldn't be doing it at all.
Yeah, if you can do without booze, you're going to live longer, period.
Amen. I have truly, truly, truly enjoyed this this episode, Brad. That's a wrap for Rise Above the Ranks. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe and follow for more from Estate Media. And let us know in the comments if you'd like or who you'd like to see on future episodes. Brad, thank you for being on with us.
Thank you, James. We'll see you in Palm Beach.
I'll see you in Palm Beach and greatly appreciate your time.